Hello everybody and welcome to this month's book club meeting. I hope you enjoyed the title that we chose last month. It was An Anonymous Girl by Greer Hendricks and Sarah Pekkanen. I must say I definitely did. It was a psychological thriller, heavy on psychological suspense side of it, which is always something that I really enjoy. For those of you who are joining us late and maybe didn't get a chance to read the book, it's the second one by these duo, Sarah Pekkanen and Greer Hendricks. Their first one was also another book club read of ours, The Wife Between Us. I think this one is even better. It's basically the story of, there are very few characters in it, it's basically the story of two women. And it's a story about obsession, love and obsession. It's a story about compromise and how far you would compromise yourself for money to get what you want. It's, as I said, it's the story of two women. Jess Ferris is a young makeup artist, struggling makeup artist, wants to work in theatre in New York City, can't. She lives in a little studio apartment. She has no friends. She lives with her dog. She is quite a loner and quite self-reliant, struggling to make ends meet. She has her parents back home and they care for her younger sister Becky, who has special needs. She was involved in an accident when she was young and is now brain damaged. Jess blames herself for her sister's accident. She was supposed to be looking after her that day. She slipped out of the house and knocked Becky in her parents' bedroom. Becky fell out the window. Becky now requires constant care. And that's a burden on the family. That's a financial burden on the parents. So Jess supplements her income. Her job is to do makeup. She goes to clients' houses and she does their makeup, and she doesn't make an awful lot of money for it. But at one such client's visit, she overhears on a voicemail a reminder given to the client that she's due to take part in an experiment, a sociology experiment early on a Saturday and on a Sunday morning. And she knows from listening to the client speaking that she's planning to go out late those nights, the weekend. She's not going to turn up for it. And Jess takes a chance that the client won't call and cancel. She's been given the details in the voicemail of where she has to go, and it says confidentiality in this, to take part in this study on ethics and morality. Confidentiality is guaranteed, and $500 is the payment for it. Jess jumps at it. She thinks, of course, that it will be easy money. Not so much. She finds herself alone in a room with a computer, and the first question comes up. It is, how guilty would you feel at having to tell a lie? And even though, ironically, to get onto this study of morality, and ethics, Jess lies. She pretends to be the other person, and she becomes subject to number 52. But that's really the last time she lies. For some reason, she, left alone with this computer, she decides to answer honestly, and that's the only criteria. Anonymity is requested of her as well. She's not to discuss the experiment, and she is also required to answer honestly, no matter how difficult or embarrassing her answers may be. And she decides to do that. And so the questions progress. Describe a time in your life when you've cheated. Tell us about a time when you have hurt somebody that you loved. And she starts to open up and to unburden herself. After a while, and she realizes she gets feedback from the psychiatrist who is running the experiment, Dr. Shields. I always think a book is good if you've got a psychiatrist as a main character, because, I don't know, no offence to the profession, but there's something genuinely creepy about it, the fact that they're usually so intelligent and so knowing, and they can find out, and this is what happens with this particular story. After a while, the questions become so probing and so invasive that just starts to get anxious and worried. Why is all this information needed? What is the psychiatrist planning on doing with this information? And so at this point, Dr. Lydia Shields, preeminent psychiatrist at NYU, decides to reveal herself, and she gains Jess's trust. But there's a genuine creep factor in this book, and that's how the suspense is built up. It's Dr. Shields has her own agenda. She's married to Thomas. He cheated on her. He gave us an excuse for cheating, that the woman approached him, threw herself at him. How could he be expected to say no when an attractive woman offered herself to him? And so, even though she's doing this study on morality and ethics in general, she starts reading the subject's responses and becomes fascinated by Jess. And she thinks that Jess will be a prime candidate for her own experiment, which is to find out whether or not she can tempt her husband again. So she reveals herself to Jess, and then Jess sees this, calm, rational, intelligent, kindly figure, and Jess starts confiding more and more in her, and she unburdens herself of her guilt about her sister Becky. And it goes on. But once more, the suspense and the tension starts ratcheting up, because now Dr. Shields wants her to take the experiment out of the lab and starts giving her instructions in her everyday life, and telling her how to dress, and giving her field work to do, right? And it becomes more and more invasive, and just becomes more and more nervous. How could she get away from, because she at this stage begins to think that the good doctor knows almost every move she makes. How can she get out from under it? But anyway, not to go too far into the book, but Jess finds out something about Dr. Lydia Shields. She finds out that while Jess is now subject number 52, and you can imagine her shock when she realizes that after the second session, all the rest of the candidates have been discarded, and now Dr. Shields is just focusing on Jess, because of course she has a new plan for Jess. But Jess realizes halfway through that Lydia has a secret. The woman that her husband had a brief affair with, and it was just a very brief encounter with, was also a subject number 5 in this morality and ethics experiment. And Lydia approached April, the young woman, never realizing that she had had an affair with her husband. She again, as she was later to do with Jess, gained April's trust. April was only 23. She was troubled and had suicidal tendencies. Confided in her that she had an affair with her psychiatrist. Lydia makes the mistake initially of saying to her that it wasn't her fault, that it was the psychiatrist's fault, who had abused his patient's trust. But then Lydia finds out that the man that she had this encounter with, this affair with, was married. This changes the good doctor's view of the relationship entirely. She suspects, of course, that it is her own husband, and turns completely against poor April. She convinces April that she is to blame, that she's worthless, and she sets her up and encourages her, even to the point of procuring drugs for her to commit suicide, which sadly happens. Jess later finds this out. We think that the character is the baddie in all of this is undoubtedly the doctor, because she's genuinely creepy, but she's not a sociopath. She's just obsessively in love with her husband, and he's made the mistake of saying to her, I couldn't be expected to resist an attractive woman who threw herself at me. And that sets the plan in Lydia's mind. She's not, as I said, a sociopath as such, although she does behave very badly. And in the end, to protect her husband, to ensure that she burns any notes that she has in relation to April that could possibly get out that April had an affair with her psychiatrist, and the good doctor kills herself. It's a really, really good book. It's an excellent book. It finishes with a slight twist as well, that some people, I'd say maybe, I don't think they would be, certainly wouldn't be expecting it, and maybe mightn't appreciate it, because up until this, I think all our sympathies lay with the poor, bewildered Jess. But remember, Jess wasn't totally good in the beginning. She did finagle her way onto this experiment in the first place through deceit. And at the end, in the final chapters, Jess arranges to meet the doctor's husband, who's also Thomas, who's also a psychiatrist. And one thing I forgot to mention is, the one thing that Lydia never doesn't realise until it's too late, is that she is trying to set Jess up as a temptation to her husband. What she doesn't know is that Jess has already briefly had a sexual encounter with Thomas. And but at the final chapter, Jess invites Thomas for a drink, and he goes for a drink with her. But actually, she wants to talk to him. She feels he owes her, and she's now going to blackmail him, because she has proof that, and she will let it be known, that he had an affair with young April, who later committed suicide. That what he did was unethical. And she demands money, she extorts money from him. And you ask yourself, certainly it's it's ironic in terms of the study that she was taking part in ethics and morality. You ask yourself, was it totally a bad thing to do? But you must realise that she feels she should be compensated for the terror that and the upset that Lydia inflicted on her. She feels that Lydia had promised her father that he a financial compensation, that Lydia would find her father work. That never came to pass. Jess herself got fired from her job because of Lydia. She blames everything on Lydia, and she feels that if Lydia isn't around to pay, Thomas should pay. So it circles nicely back to this whole morality and ethics, and the whole thing about how far you would go for money. And she doesn't want money just for herself. She wants it all the time. As she says herself in one part of the book, that guilt is a very heavy baggage to carry, and she can never lay it down. She wants the money to send back to her parents to help fund treatment for Becky, who has all of these special needs. So you may not agree with what she does. She's a very understandable and relatable character. So it's a really good book. The chapters are short. For those of you who haven't read, the chapters are very short. You fly through it. I read it in the ebooks from the BorrowBox app, but if you manage to get it on audiobook, apparently it's really, really good, because it's told, the alternating chapters are told from each person's, Lydia and Jess's point of view, so you get their internal thinking, which at times is genuinely creepy. So it's great to hear it in audiobooks. So definitely, those of you who haven't got a chance to read it, I would heartily recommend it. I hope those of you that did read it, I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. What else? That's about all I can say about that. There are a couple of things I've written down here that they were from emails that came in. Some guys, some of our old book club members contacted me, and it was great to hear from you guys. So shout out to Jean, first of all. Jean, I know you weren't too sure about going on Facebook or whatever, but I hope that you are joining us in the YouTube channel. Lisa B, it's good to have you with us, Lisa. Lisa recommended 7 Letters by Sinead Moriarty. I've heard anything by Sinead Moriarty. She's good, Nat, has to be said. Lisa says it's a real tear-jerker, but very enjoyable. She also recommends any of Cara Hunter's D.I. Adam Frawley series. She said if you start with Close to Home, really good, gripping books. Breda is a long-time member of our book club. Hello, Breda. Breda has started Game of Thrones. Okay, well, we'll say goodbye to you then, Breda, for the duration. By George R.R. Martin. We won't see you until next Christmas. But also on her Christmas reading list was Shuggie Bain by Douglas Stewart. And like you, I've heard good things about that, set in Glasgow. Breda was also inquiring about some good online sites for buying second-hand or new books. Breda, I know you know about the Book Depository. O'Mahony's based in Limerick, and Dubray Books in Bray. They have good online sites as well. booksonline.ie, they give a really good list, comprehensive list of online booksellers, and they give you the option of all, they list them on the option of how visiting their sites. Lifehack.org lists 15 of the best online sites, so maybe you might be interested in that. I sent you on a list, Breda, but what I might do is I might put it up on Facebook as well, if all the rest of them, see whether or not anybody might be interested in those. What else have I said? Yeah, I'll probably leave it there then, guys. But any more questions or comments, let us know. nenalibrary@tiprairicoco.ie. Our March meeting will be Tuesday, 30th of March at 4 p.m, so join us then. And the book that I'm recommending, and again, you can download it from BorrowBox, guys. The book that I'm recommending that we read this time is, and I heard good things about it, it's set in America, small town America. We Begin at the End by Chris Whitaker, the award-winning author Chris Whitaker. It's meant to be a really, really good book. So hopefully we'll enjoy that, and we'll see you then in March. Okay?